YouTube.
Okay, 7 o'clock.
Yep.
I have to go live on this. Okay, 2-1 still starting. We still got the circle. Hi. Good evening. This is the Tibet Center, Kunshab Tarduling, a Buddhist meditation and study center located in New York City and northern New Jersey. And this is our twice weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma. And this webcast is coming from downtown New York City, at Bowery and Houston. If you have anyone for whom you wish us to pray for, please type their names in the chat box here. I'm getting an echo, okay. All the prayers are on the website. Scroll down to in the FAQ section, scroll down to prayers. Someone hand me a prayer, by the way. I need a prayer. And if there's any problem with the transmission, the sound, et cetera, and so forth, please text me. So you can text me because it might interrupt the Facebook one, but I'm also on YouTube at the same time. I don't know, I'm schizophrenic. Anyway, prayer for the spread of the teachings. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West, for all the people living here together with their near ones, who have engaged the teachings and have faith and respect for them. May all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen, just as we have hoped and wished. Interference in adverse conditions. Sorry, I missed the word. Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi which examines the dharmas, called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form. Form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear, they transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayat Om Gate Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound, transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, Asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Refuge and Bodhisattva vow, which, as you know, we say 3 times. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So, welcome back to our humble abode here on 3rd Avenue and Houston Street, or Bowering House, or whatever you want to call it. What I'm going to do in the next few lectures that we have, or next few months, weeks maybe, first half of the class will be more general Buddhism with a twist this time. And the second half will be the Lamrim hardcore commentary on the insight section, the hardest part of Buddhism. We'll start with this particular approach. This is called Approaching the Buddhist Path. And what is this? I'm screwed up with this. Can we do it this way? Yeah, there it goes. Okay. He turned one way, it goes the other. This is His Holiness's 10-volume series. 9 are out already. He's rewriting the Lamrim. It becomes very plain when you read the introduction, Thupten Chodron's introduction, and his also preface, etc. The problem, why are we bored? We had a Lamrim. The Lamrim was written in the late 1300s, early 1400s. It assumed an audience that was already aware of Buddhism, that already knew all the cultural trappings of Buddhism, the devotion to the guru, the this, the that. That's not today's situation. Of course you're bored. His Holiness points this out right away. And he's adjusted this. This is a modern Lamrim. And it also includes delving a little bit into the other traditions, the Chinese tradition, what do they call it? Hinayana's a bad word. Theravada conditions, yeah. Then the Nikaya, rather than the Sanskrit. The Pali, rather than the Sanskrit, blah, blah, blah. So here's His Holiness is just the reason why he did. He says the world we live in is very different from the world at the Buddhist time. Yet we human beings have the same afflictions and still experience physical and mental suffering. While the truth of the Buddha's teachings transcends historical eras, the way they are presented to practitioners in a given time is influenced by the specific culture, environment, and economic and political challenges. It's different today than it was in Tibet, a feudal society. Very few people read and wrote, mostly illiterate unless you were in the monastery or a noble. Different story. I encourage us, he says, to become 21st century Buddhists. Yay. People whose view is rooted in the Buddha's message of compassion and wisdom, and who have a broad understanding of many fields such as science, especially neurology, psychology, and physics, and other religions. And throughout these 9 volumes, I haven't read them all thoroughly. I dipped in and I've had presented parts of them in class. He's doing exactly that. So you get a taste of this, a taste of that. So he says our Buddhist knowledge must be expansive, not limited to just one topic, practice, or Buddhist tradition. We should try to learn about the teachings and practices of other Buddhist traditions and understand how they suit the particular disposition and interests of the people who practice them. We also include some of these teachings in our own practice. In this way, we will better appreciate the Buddhist skill as a teacher, which will reduce the sectarianism that limits us Buddhists from acting together to contribute to the welfare of all peoples and environments on our planet. He's very much aware of everybody else who's not a Buddhist. People are suffering, and he wants to be there. To grow these understandings, I'm skipping, I'm not doing the whole thing. To grow these understandings in ourselves, reciting prayers and mantras is not sufficient. I'm not saying throw them out, but it's not the whole story. And people emphasize them. I did all these, parroted them out, and then that's it, I'm done. No. You really have to start using your whatever's left of it in this side of your brain. While perhaps increasing our devotion, these activities alone do not bring wisdom. Right up front. In the modern world, we need to be realistic and practical, and for this, knowledge is essential. And all of us want happiness, etc. So I'll skip through. Thupten Chodron, in her introduction, or preface rather, says that she grew up in a Judeo-Christian culture, and I tried to believe in God, but that worldview didn't work for me. She's talking now as a Westerner. She's been a monk since 74, but she's a good one. Nun, rather, excuse me. Whatever. She's ordained. There were too many unanswered questions. When I was 24, I attended a 3-week Dharma course taught by 2 Tibetan lamas. One of the first things they said was, you don't have to believe anything we say. And that's very important. You are intelligent people. Examine these teachings using reasoning. Practice them and see through your own experience if they work. That's it. Not do this because I told you. Do this and see what happens. Is it useful? Good. Not throw it out. That's it. Then decide if you want to adopt them. The attitude of chipyasika, or come and see, that the Buddha spoke about in the sutras attracted me. Studying, contemplating, and practicing the Buddhist teachings over time, I became convinced that this path made sense and would help me if I practiced sincerely. So she said, like many Westerners in the 70s, she steeped herself in studying and practicing Tibetan Buddhism as much as she could. And here she said, our Dharma education commenced with the Lamrim, a genre of text that lead readers through the progressive stages of the path to awakening. Here it is helpful to look at the place of Tibetan Lamrim works within the tradition. Buddha taught for many years. She's mentioning all that. But however, when the first generation, I'm skipping, I'm on page Roman numeral 16, but skipping. When the first generation of Westerners were introduced to Lamrim, we were told that everything we needed to know was in the text. And we hear this too, right? And that all we had to do was gain awakening was to study and practice them correctly over time. Well, that's easy. Then how come we're not Buddhists now? Wait a minute. However, things didn't turn out to be that simple. From the very beginning of the Lamrim, we had doubts about topics that for our Tibetan teachers were obvious. Here's the cultural things, and here's what we have to iron out today and make our life a lot smoother. Precious Human Life, one of the initial meditations of the Lamrim, speaks of our fortune being born as human beings, not as hell beings, hungry ghosts, or animals. Tibetans, raised in a culture that believes in rebirth and various realms of existence, accept this without question. However, for those of us raised in Christian, Jewish, or secular cultures that respect science, this is not the case. So we sit there with a different mindset right in the start. Problem. Furthermore, while our Tibetan teachers talked about all phenomena being empty of true existence, we were wondering, does God exist? When they taught selflessness, we were trying to find our souls or our true selves. When they explained dependent arising, we were seeking the one absolute truth independent from all else. Philosophically, our views did not coincide, and that's a big problem. So the teachings were directed toward people who could separate their emotional needs from their spiritual practice and who would correctly understand these teachings. For example, they assumed we would not be overwhelmed with guilt when reflecting on our harmful actions. Guilt isn't a thing in that culture. We would not harshly criticize ourselves when contemplating the disadvantages of self-centeredness, and we would not succumb to our culture's tendency to idolize the charismatic. And we do have that problem, right? Look who got elected a while ago, a few years ago. So from our side, we Westerners assume that all Tibetan teachers were Buddhas, and that the values we grew up holding, democracy, gender equality, care for the environment, and so on, would be perfectly embodied in Tibetan society. I don't know. The women would have to answer that about gender equality. So, all these assumptions on both sides were incorrect, and after a while, many Westerns began to have difficulties with their Dharma studies. His Holiness understood this, I'm skipping, and adjusted his teachings in the West accordingly. Instead of beginning with a reliance upon a spiritual mentor elevated to the status of a Buddha, he started with the two truths: how things appear to exist and how they actually exist. Never mind the guru this can do no wrong, the guru that, first thing of the guru, nothing else. No, doesn't work here. Rather than tell us that reciting a certain mantra a few times will protect us from rebirth in the hells, he explained the four noble truths of the Aryas, those who non-conceptually perceive ultimate reality, and those who have seen emptiness directly. He started talking from that point of view. Instead of saying that drinking blessed water would purify eons of destructive karma, he taught us about the nature of mind, the workings of the mental afflictions, and the possibility of attaining liberation, a psychological approach. Never mind drink the water of this. That's fine for illiterate people, etc. Gives them something to believe in, something to carry on until they raise it. But we already have a certain education that's not going to accept that. You know, some people go to the motions and make it a big deal, but it doesn't hold. Come on. Diving into the philosophy that underlies the Buddhist worldview, we asked us to think deeply about it. He challenged us to doubt our anger and open our hearts with compassion for all sentient beings. His was a no-nonsense approach, and when he learned that, contrary to Buddhist scriptures, the earth was not flat, they were grew up thinking the earth was flat, and revolved the sun, he was quick to say that if science conclusively proves something, we should accept it and not adhere to scriptural pronouncements to the contrary. Use your head. Very much modern that way. And she talks about how she wrote all this and what the topics are. I'm skipping again. So here, this series also incorporates several other purposes. It links study to daily life, the way they're going to present, the way we'll be presenting it here, at least half hour at a time throughout, I don't know, till I fall off the work, I don't know. So, and Jackie will continue. Our friend Jackie, Venerable Karuna, will be coming in a month from now. And she will have some lectures here and some in the Tibet Center. We'll alternate. So those of you who like Jackie, you'll get your fill. She'll be here a couple of months, whether you like it or not. So that, right, fooling around. So anyway, it links study to daily life and formal meditation practice. It serves as a bridge for both new and seasoned practitioners from the short Lamrim text to the lengthy philosophical treatises, and it exposes the reader to the tenets and practices of other Buddhist traditions. We begin by laying the groundwork for the Buddhist teachings. The need for pre-Lamrim material is evinced in a comment His Holiness made when he began working on this series. He said, the Lamrim assumes that someone is already a practitioner with full faith in the Buddha. And people come here not even know what the Buddha is, they're just testing it out. And in my opinion, people come to Buddhism for psychological needs. They're stressed, they're depressed. They have uncontrollable anger in these issues. They're looking to Buddhism as somewhat of a self-help or psychological care. They don't want to hear about, Chandrakriti said, what he said. Oh, yeah, no. The Savaka say this. Come on. It doesn't work. So we have to address that. People are suffering. People are in trouble. We have some knowledge. Not that they should become Buddhists. Who cares? I'm not carrying the flag. Okay? But if we can help them relieve their stress and suffering, then they don't go home and scream at everybody else around them. We did our job. And we're in the world too, so it comes back to us. Let's face it. So we're taking care of ourselves, which is the right way to do things. Me, the hell with you. No, not really. The wise selfish person, His Holiness says that. So, all right, so we need to add introductory. He's saying we need to add introductory materials so people get the right idea of what we're talking about and introduce people these things in a different sequence than they are now. The two truths will be mentioned, etc. So I'm going to skip over her stuff. So chapter 1, which I'm going to go to right now, what's the outline of that? Explores the role of Buddhism in the world, the purposes of our lives, the middle way between theistic religions and scientific reductionism. So we don't have theism in Buddhism. We don't have a creator God and someone you're trying to please by doing this. And I said 10,000 prayers. How's that, God? You like that? Oh, yeah? What does that do? In one way, it helps because you realize the material world is the whole thing, but it's not going to set you on the right path. So you are a Buddha already, as we were told, but it's hiding. I don't feel like a Buddha, I feel terribly, but we have to awaken something that we already have. It's not something we have to run out and get. So we have to uncover all the confusion in our minds and get the jewel that's in there. So the way between theistic religion and scientific reductionism, Buddhism's relationship with the other great religions, and the meaning of being a spiritual practitioner in the modern world. Spiritual is not religious, as you may have told. We mean a different thing. Spiritual is in a development. It isn't joining a club and saying hallelujah and giving money and whatever you do, looking at everybody else, how they're dressed and all the things that people do when they go to these gatherings. This is you in your mind. You can't get away from it. It's always there. So make friends. So here's His Holiness saying, a spiritual path, this is all His Holiness's words now. A spiritual path is essential to human life. Although advances in medicine, science, and technology have done much to improve the quality of human life, they have not been able to free us from all suffering and bring us secure and lasting happiness. In fact, in many cases, they have brought new problems that we did not face in the past, such as environmental pollution and the threat of nuclear war. Therefore, external improvements in our world are not sufficient to bring the happiness and peace that we all desire. And we're talking about everlasting, eternal peace, total eternal peace, not just I feel good. You can go and feel good in various ways. I think you all know. Eternal, never declining. So, for this internal transformation through spiritual development is essential. For this transformation to occur, we need to follow a spiritual path, whether you want to call it Buddhism or whatever, or you do the same elements in your own, put your own name to it, doesn't matter. You have to discipline your mind to bring up its qualities. It's not operating on its full potential. Spiritual practice involves transforming our mind. Although our body is important, satisfying it does not bring lasting happiness. Because first of all, it's not going to last. Everyone knows this, but don't want to bring it to mind. But it's the truth. You'll get another one, but you have the mind all the time traveling. We must look inside ourselves, examining our attitudes and emotions to understand how profoundly they influence and shape our experiences. The Buddha comments, and this is the Pali text in Samyutta Nikaya 1.62, in case you want to release 1.62. The world is led by mind and drawn along by mind. All phenomena are controlled by one phenomenon, mind. Think about it. Mind's the whole show. You can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't weigh it, no electric charge, nothing physical about it, but it's running the whole show. Very strange. So that alone should give us something to think about as we run around Chinatown and Canal Street and all these places. So the mind includes not only our intellect, but also all our cognitions, emotions, and other mental factors. Their idea of mind is different right away from the start. They come with a different gestalt, a different view. The Sanskrit word for mind, chitta, C-I-T-T-A, like bodhicitta, chitta, can also be translated as heart. It refers to all our consciousnesses, sensory and mental, and to the variety of mental states we experience. All that is in mind. By subduing, whereas the Western idea, mind is like this mathematical computer that does numbers and knows this and memorizes, but no, they say the whole thing. Things we see, hear, the emotions are all mind. They're not physical, they're mental. By subduing the afflicted aspects of our mind, our experience of the world is transformed. Whereas if we seek to change only the external environment and the people in it, we continually meet with frustration. We can't. Read the news, I wish I could do this, I wish I could call this, give a speech, do that. We meet with frustration at this point because we cannot control the external world. It is only by developing the great potential of our mind/heart, mind-heart complex, that we will be able to find a way out of our suffering and truly benefit others as well. And that's the whole thing. In Buddhism, therefore, the obstacles we aim to eliminate are not external, but are afflictive mental states. The whole war goes on in the mind. Distorted attitudes and disturbing emotions, the tools we use to counteract them are also mental: compassion, wisdom, and other realistic and beneficial attitudes and emotion that we continually cultivate. So we have a toolbox that we can use to get rid of the anger, the jealousy, the fear. And where does all that come from? As we'll see as we study the insight section, it comes from the ego, the sense of I that's not really there, that we think is there. That's what gets depressed. That's what gets angry. It's not even there. Who started this? We did. We created our own jail. Hey! The Buddhist teachings, or Buddha Dharma, what is commonly known as Buddhism, help us to differentiate realistic and beneficial attitudes, views, and emotions that accord with the way things are. In the background of all these teachings is the fact that things are empty of inherent existence, or whatever you want to call it. From that point of view, they come out and spread this information. The teachings also give us instructions regarding what to practice and what to abandon on the spiritual path. The Buddha taught from his own experience, and we are free to accept or reject his teachings. It's up to you, using valid reasons as well as our own experience as criteria. So the Buddha says, this is the Majjhima Nikaya, another Pali sutra, or sutta they call it. This shows the broadness of this presentation. He's talking from all levels of Buddhism, and sometimes he brings in science and other religions. Very wonderful presentation. Very healthy for us. Here's the Buddhist quote: "For the most part, beings have this wish, desire, and longing. And that is, if only unwished for, undesired, disagreeable things would diminish, and wished for, desirable, and agreeable things would increase. If only that happened. Yet, although beings have this wish, desire, and longing, unwished for, undesired, disagreeable things increase for them, and wished for, desirable, agreeable things diminish." We don't get what we want, but we get what we don't want. Day in, day out, on and on forever. Is that the way we're supposed to be? No, not at all. Pardon me, it's cold brew, it's not alcohol. I'm too old to drink alcohol. First you weren't old enough, and now you're too old. I do not know of an overwhelming purpose for the existence of the world. Here's a big point. And from the Buddhist point of view, there's really no clear explanation. There's the Big Bang Theory, but what preceded that, on and on. We simply say that the existence of the world is due to causes and conditions and to nature. Leave it alone. Why? The existence of the universe is a fact. How existence came into being and the possibility of ending suffering are quite different issues. We do not need to know how the world began in order to stop our suffering. So don't waste your time. Forget it. You're suffering, do something, apply it. You got a very bad cut or something, put something on it. Don't say, the blood is flowing. Why is blood flowing? Is it ground? Bang. That's a Buddha in one of his sutras says that it's like someone who gets shot by an arrow and they bring him in. Oh, let's get rid of the arrow. Let's do something before that. Oh, what kind of arrow is it? What kind of feathers? What is this? That doesn't help you. Hey. And there's the other one that gets shot by an arrow and actually gets shot by two because they start coming, oh, this is terrible. Second pain, the pain of the thing itself, and then the pain of you worrying and freaking out about it. That's another thing we have to watch for. We do. I do anyway. Everyone wants to be happy and peaceful and to avoid suffering. Even a person who doesn't know the purpose for the existence of the universe doesn't want to suffer, right? Such a person would never think, because there is no plan or big purpose, I will let myself suffer. No. Our body exists and feelings of happiness and unhappiness exist. When our intellect understands the reason for our existence or not, whether our intellect understands the reason why we're here or not, we are concerned about the happiness of ourselves and others. Automatic. By seeking to bring about this happiness, we give purpose and meaning to our lives. And that's a worthwhile process. Don't go off guilty like you should be happy. You're supposed to be happy. The purpose of our life is happiness and peace, an internal feeling, there's the word again, of well-being, eudaimonia, they say in Greek. To bring that about, we need material development and proper education, of course. We also need spiritual development. And by spirituality, here's the key statement. I do not mean religious beliefs or rituals. He says it right out. For me, spirituality refers to the basic good qualities of human beings, such as compassion, affection, gentleness, and humility. Humility made the cut. Says so. When these qualities are well established in our hearts, we will have more peace of mind and will contribute to the happiness of others. Someone can be happy without religious beliefs, but not without these basic good qualities. So you can put religion on the shelf, but where are you in terms of these good qualities? That makes you really take stock of yourself. Otherwise, you just write it off the religion. Yeah, I said this, I said that, I went to shul, I went to church, I did that. And you're still a pain in the butt. And then you go to work and you start, ripping people off and everything else. Come on. Or you go into politics and line your pockets. That happens sometimes. Sentient beings, all beings of the mind are not fully awake. A sentient being is everyone who's not a Buddha. We have two types of happiness. Physical happiness, physical happiness occurs at the level of our senses. So here's a nice sorting out we could do. Physical happiness at a level of our senses, and the mental or emotional happiness and suffering, which occur at the mind, at the mental level. As human beings, we are not different from animals, insects, and other beings with bodies. We are all basically the same in terms of seeking physical comfort and avoiding pain. But in terms of our mental and emotional happiness and sufferings, we human beings are very different from other species. Good and bad reasons, by the way. We have human intelligence, thus have more capacity to think, remember, explain, and examine. For example, unlike animals, human beings may suffer mentally when they remember injustices their ancestors experienced. Boy, do they. We may speculate about the future and become anxious or furious about situations that haven't occurred yet. Animals don't do that. Maybe they're smart. I don't know. Due to our imagination, we are more sensitive on a mental level and experience so much joy and misery that is created by our mind. Because mental suffering is created by the conceptions in our mind, countermeasures that are likewise mental are important. Conceptions in our mind. In other words, what we think the world is. And that causes us trouble. If it's out of sync with reality, which unless you've understood emptiness directly, it is. We have problems, we suffer, which is why we're in the inside chapter of the Lamrim. So I'm going to lead into in 2 seconds. I see this, the video is stuttering.
It's fine.
It's coming out fine? Okay, great. The sound?
Yep.
Okay, so we had a lot of trouble last week. Had to go outside on a box with a megaphone. So a middle way between, this is very important now, theistic religions and scientific reductionism. So we as Buddhists don't believe in a creator God. If you want to make God infinite compassion, infinite wisdom, go right ahead, that's fine. The guy with the beard that started everything off, or women with tattoos that start everything, it doesn't make sense logically. For some people that works, that's fine, temporarily. They get comfort, things like that. We don't knock that. Anything that helps people on any level is great. But we want to look for something more lasting. So we will, scientific reductionism basically, we'll get to it. I don't want to get to it now because we have to do some of the longer. Their idea is that the brain is, the mind is an offshoot of physical matter, of the brain, of neurons, of this and that. They don't separate consciousness from the physical brain, whereas Buddhists do. Buddhists say that brain conditions consciousness. The human brain will condition it one way, a dog's brain will condition it another way. But consciousness is not the physical brain. It's something non-physical that at the time of birth enters into the joining of the sperm and egg, or into the parents, or whatever means of birth the being is going to have. That's very important. That's going to be a theme that he looks at constantly. So we'll leave it as that. That's scientific reductionism. In other words, everything is reduced to matter, and matter's interaction, and that's how thoughts come about, and that's how it's a big fight. Now scientists are coming away from that, but as recent as like 10, 12 years ago, there were violent arguments, vehement arguments, I should say, not violent. They're too smart to be violent. So anyway, the Lamrim. A couple of things I wanted to, we're in chapter 11. I'm not doing the whole chapter because Nikki covered, and I had done it before too, recently. But it's come to my attention that certain things are needed before we properly understand certain words that we use in everyday life that are meant to be taken differently. And this is very critical, believe it or not. Illusion, the word illusion. When someone says things are illusory, we come up with these things that, it's like it's not really there. It's this leads to the idea of when you understand emptiness, everything is a void, there's nothing there. And things that are here, they're really illusory, and they're like something that you put your hand through, and not the case. What does illusory mean? Illusory means something that is not inherently existent. That's all. Illusory in terms of we think it's one way automatically. We think things are, but they're not. That's not the case. So when we hear things are illusory, we think, well, then how can there be, conventional reality? Things are all illusory. So like, even though I see the bus and this, really, if I go into a different mindset, it all disappears, and that's the way reality really is. No. But that's a common idea. People sit in meditation looking for the big blank. Been a problem since way back when. Even the Zen master Hui Nang said, no, it's not a void. It's a meaningful space that allows all these things to happen. It is not a void. When you sit in meditation and you're looking for what is it that makes this thing that or that, you're looking for inherent existence. Suddenly, you've got all the reasons, and they go into place, and actually you have an experience of it. Nothing appears to you. You are not even there. You can't say, aha, I see the emptiness. If you see emptiness, it's not an experience of emptiness. The perceiving mind melds into the experience itself. You come back afterwards. Then you see things around you, and they seem less solid. But that doesn't mean that that's reality. Solid things that you see around you, illusory but functional. In Buddhism, when they use illusion, they don't mean it's not functional, that it's not there. They mean that it's not there the way we think it's there. So solid and so discrete from everything else. And this goes for everything, including the thoughts in your mind. They're all coming to existence by cause, going out, coming in. Watch your mind. You want to learn causality, watch your mind. There's thoughts come in and out. There's movement. So that's what it means by illusory. So don't take the wrong route. And then what about false? So there's a thing where, let me see if I can find it. Somebody said, well, memory is false. And people say, well, in one way it is, but another way it's not, and blah, blah, blah. So what happens when you remember something? And you could say, when there's a passage here, well, memory is false. Don't you believe in memory? In fact, I should read it, but let me give you some background first, and then I'll read it. And you say, well, your memory is naturally false. No, I was there and I remember. That's exactly what happened. Yes, false in what way? It appears to be here now, but it's not. You remember a nice scene from your youth, or from currently 10 weeks ago, whatever, something very nice, and it's vivid in your mind. That's not false. I was there and I lived. False in just the way it's appearing to be here at now, but it's a past object brought into the present mind. So it appears present, but in reality, it's not. It's a past thing. Does that make it invalid as a reference point? No. That's the way they mean false. They don't mean it's totally wiped out. So yeah, it's like a little ballet they do with words. You have to be very careful. So what helped me a lot is Geshe Sopa in his commentary, because the Lamrim itself is tough on its own without the proper background. Let me check the time so I can see how far I can get into this. Oh, good, we got time. Take a break. Yeah. Memory. I say, does memory exist? I think I'm looking for that quote. Let me get the Lamrim itself. Sorry for the delay. Talk among yourselves. I'm verklempt. I should have marked the pages. They fell out on the train. Okay, here we go. Question. This is page 145 of the root text, volume 3, good old-fashioned Lamrim. And we mean old-fashioned. Do you Madhyamikas claim that there are no memory consciousness that have as their objects the things of the past? You mean there's no memory? You don't have memory? Come on. They say, who would claim that such do not exist? We do not eliminate dependent arising. The Master Aryadeva himself gives a precise statement of how memory exists. Therefore, the arising, this is Aryadeva is now saying, the arising of what we call memory is only an unreal subject with an unreal object. Well, wait a minute, I was there, it was really unreal in the sense that it's not here now. You're remembering it. Yes, it's accurate, etc. And yes, it's here now. And this memory probably will affect you. You remember somebody, oh, she did this to me, he did that to me. All of a sudden you're roiled up as if the thing's happening now. What do you mean it's unreal? Unreal in fact that it's not here and now. It's recalled. That's all. So appearing one way but existing another way. Therefore, when memory observes, what memory observes is something in the past. If the past thing essentially existed, in other words, if it was inherently existing, all this argument is aiming at inherent existence. If it did, then the memory of it would be observing an object that essentially exists. Therefore, that memory would be essentially existent or inherently existent, the same meaning, essential. But insofar as that past thing lacks intrinsic existence, the memory observing it also lacks intrinsic existence. Therefore, Aryadeva has established that the past object and the memory of it are unreal. Now, unreal or false means only lacking intrinsic existence and means dependent on this. Does not mean the non-existence of things that can perform functions. And by the way, that memory does perform a function. It'll make you aggravated, it'll make you happy or whatever, desirous, depending on the content. So when they say false, they mean appearing one way, but actually being another, having another mode of being than the way it appears. Yay. A past thing is not entirely non-existent because it is an object of memory, and if its effects can be seen. It also does not essentially exist inherently. For if it did, it would have to be permanent. It would have to be directly apprehensible. It wouldn't be in the past. Inherent existence assumes a static reality. Nothing past or present, just there, not affected by time or anything. So it's a way around understanding inherent existence by playing with the idea of memory. It's very sophisticated. Chandrakirti says that these past objects and such, this is Sankapa talking, on the bottom of page 145. He explains that unreal or false means being a dependent arising and does not mean that things do not exist. Unreal or false to you guys who think that these things essentially exist and that's the way reality has to be. That's all. Therefore, if you claim that these phenomena are essentially existent or inherently existent, then you are a proponent of real, quote, real things You have fallen into the extreme of intrinsic existence. However, to hold that these phenomena are simply existent does not make you a proponent of real things or a proponent of real existence. Simply there in a certain way, not the way everyone in the world assumes that they are. That's all. It's very, very tricky here. That's the subtlety of it. A little boring. You got to get through it. Similarly, if you hold that internal and external things are non-things, devoid of the capacity to perform functions, then you are propounding the non-existence of things. They perform function. You could get really riled up by a memory or go out and shoot somebody or whatever. Or go out and make that phone call. We got to get together again. Yeah, right. And you have fallen to the extreme of non-existence. Propounding non-existence of things. However, you do not fall to an extreme of non-existence by saying that things lack intrinsic existence. That's all. We don't say things lack existence, that they're not there. We say that they lack intrinsic existence in that they are not static items that never react with anything. On the contrary, they are constantly reacting. Everything is contingent moment to moment, including us. Yay. So that's what they're trying to get. This is very subtle, but this is reality. And you stay with this and things start to make more sense over the years. For me, it's many, many years and I'm still, it takes a while. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have good teachers and to go on intensive meditative retreats or good instructions, much, much faster. So if you could design your life to have more study time, more meditation, or take ordination with a good group, then you're in good shape. It's faster. But if the rest of us have to go to work and everything, we can do our best. In the meantime, don't forget compassion and kindness. The merit from that will make it easier for us to learn. So it's very selfish on our part to do that, and also helps others. So what else? What do we have time-wise? Not too much time. So what does Geshe Sopa say about that? He said something. 45. Another thing he's going to talk about is how things are directly contradictory, and that you need that when you start reading these things. Here it is. There's no memory of the past. This is the same thing I just said about memory in a more modern way of expressing it by Geshe Sopa, his page 116 of Lam Rim, number 5, the big fat commentary. He taught at University of Wisconsin, so he's used to Western students and their method of learning, etc. He's still not as radical as Holiness. He was a little more traditional. So the rising of that called memory is only false, and in that its object is false. The object of memory is something in the past. If it existed by its own nature, then since the memory of it would observe an inherently existent object, it too would exist inherently. We had this. False, I'm skipping. False means not existing inherently, yet dependently arising. It doesn't mean anything else. That's the meaning of false in this context. False at the bank means something else. You put a fake bill there. False here means this. You have to know context in Buddhism. Maybe they haven't gotten the right word yet. This is new. I don't know. But I found hearing about things like this makes it a lot easier for me to understand these texts. It does not mean that functional things do not exist. Past things are not totally non-existent because they are objects that are remembered and their results are seen. Moreover, they are not inherently existent because if they were, they would be permanent and directly ascertained. You wouldn't have to have memory. They're here. They're permanent. They're always there. You got it? So while you're doing this and trying to understand this, you're getting a sneaky view into non-inherent existence. That's the way they work. They're saying one thing, but at the same time, you're taking away something else subliminally. Over time, hearing this stuff, it improves you, and you'll find almost immediately less tension in your life. There should be less reason for freaking out. This and everything's a big crisis, and this is no, I got this and that. You get more of a person, become like a person who flows. Remember the person when Buddha said, what is it like for a person who understands anything? Buddha says it's like someone who could wave their hand in space and not be impeded by anything, their thoughts, events, etc. This can happen. There are two related questions addressed here, Geshe Sopa. What is memory, and in what way is memory false? When memory occurs, past things appear in the present mind. The mind that remembers something is present right now. Those hot times you had, shame on you. Not really. You could think of those things. The mind that remembers something is present right now. The object ascertained by this mind is in the past. I was on the beach, etc., and so forth. The object appears to be present, but it does not actually exist in the present as it appears to. In this sense, any memory is false. Here, the term false does not mean that the memory is wrong. False refers to something that does not exist exactly as it appears in the Buddhist context in this stuff. That's what false means. So don't automatically, oh, false. Yeah, it triggers a certain setup in your mind. No, you're going the wrong direction. Memory is false because both the object and the mind perceiving the object do not exist exactly as they appear. So memory is mistaken with regard to its appearing object, but not mistaken with regard to its held object, okay? The memory appears, but it's not the real thing. But however, the thing it's remembering was real. The appearing object and the held object. That repeats itself all over. That comes in. The held object exists. The past thing that, as you're called, appears to be present but not present. So in that sense, it's false. The mind to which the past thing appears is also false in that it perceives its object to be present when it is not. Okay? When we remember something, it seems as if we are directly perceiving the object itself, especially in vivid memory. But we are not. Memory is thought. It is not direct perception. Write that down. Memory is thought. It's not direct perception. It remembers the past thing, but its appearing object is a conceptual image of that past thing. You're not going to get wet with the waves on the beach you remember, right? It's a conceptual image of the past thing. It mixes up the appearance of the conceptual image with the actual thing in the past. Oh, we're there when the memories go on. I mean, really. This is another way they sort out the mind. Very helpful in the long run. You don't get tossed around like a bronking horse by your mind. Oh, I see. Think that way. However, by that appearance, it can hold its object. Yes. Nonetheless, the object of memory does not exist as it appears. So the memory itself and the appearance of its remembered object are both false in that they do not inherently exist. What's hard sometimes is in a dream you have a very vivid memory. And of course, it's not happening now. And it's very sad when you remember someone that you liked in the past. You wake up, oh, they're not here. Things like that. Oh, I didn't win lotto. That happens. Remember, it's a concept. It's the mind conceptualizing things, making up its own reality, as it were. So false does not mean that memory and its objects are nothing, he repeats. It does not mean that something appears that does not exist at all. False simply negates the idea that the object arises because it exists inherently. He snuck around that way. The fact that it's arising sometimes and not all the times means it's not inherently existent. It's arising according to causes. That alone should knock it out from your consideration as inherently existing. We have about another minute or two. If past things existed inherently, they would be permanent, existing now in the same way without any change. So why does he have to mention this? We know that. Because we think it is. We get fooled. We go crazy remembering something.
And there could be a present in the past for something.
What?
There could be a present in the past for something.
There couldn't be a present. No, because everything is referential back and forth. And where is the present? You can never find it. So why am I paying rent? I should tell that. Hey, there is no present. There is no. Try the Buddhist argument at the bank or whatever. See if it works. This money is false. It's a false appearance. I refuse to pay it. They'll cart you away. The world isn't Buddhism. There are no inherently existent past things. If past things exist inherently, they would be permanent. Jay Sukkap has already sussed this out. Is this existing now in the same without any change as they did in the past? They would be the present. Jay Sukkap has spoken in the 21st century. It's very funny. So not only would they exist continuously, but also the mind apprehending them would perceive them directly. But memory does not grasp its object directly. The object does not directly appear to it. If memory were a directly appearing or perceiving awareness, its objects would be in the present and those past things would still exist. If this was so, then we are back to these things being permanent. So that's that. So then we'll end it on that. A little tricky, the way they think is very different. Try to get used to it because it is extremely helpful, psychologically beneficial. It takes the edge off a lot of anxiety and grief, etc., and so forth. So for whom will we pray? Let's see, I have a chat box now. Hello, yes, the Airman. Is the new volume by H.H. available first? 9 volumes are available. The 10th one, Tantra, is next fall, I believe. About a year from now, a little less, according to Tibetan children. So we have here, we're praying for Freddie, Middle East victims, Darfur victims. Darfur, like thousands were killed over the weekend. Insane. Elizabeth Moynihan?
Yeah.
Oh, Senator's wife? I met her. Her daughter was a student here for a while. Yeah. I met Moynihan. He was a very nice man, very good man. He got along with both Nixon and Johnson and everybody. He's a nice guy. Sutra of the Recollection of Noble Three Jewels on the Tibet Center website, of course. I prostrate to the Omniscient One, thus to Buddha, Bhagava, Tathagata, Arahat, Samyak Sam Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strengths cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The Holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavad teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavad, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great jnana, they enter completely. They enter insightfully. They enter straightforwardly. They enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely cruel realm. Before we go, this book I'd like to recommend to people. It's inexpensive. It's called Introduction to Emptiness by Guy Newland. Great guy, very interesting. He's on the internet a lot, on the web, on the YouTube channels, etc. It follows the Lamrim. It follows this emptiness section of the, and he even gives you what chapter he's talking about this way. So it's concise. It's a good overview, very well written. He's very insightful. So I think you'd like it. So you're having trouble with the concepts here, and you don't want to hit that big fat tome to start unraveling everything. This is perfect. It leads you nicely. So our next webcast will be tomorrow night from the parsonage in South Orange. All of you are welcome at 7:00. Espresso is served. And Tara will be this Saturday at 1:00 in the parsonage in South Orange. The instructions to get there again are on the website. It's foliage time out in Jersey, so you might want to come out just to look at the leaves. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Big love to all of you.
Thank you very much, Chen.
Look what look.
Future Chen.
Oh, yeah. Hello. You gotta shut that one down, right? Bye. Arrivederci.